Members, we're going to have a long meeting. Shall we sit down for the meeting? We have the quorum now. Thank you. Mr. IP Kwok-him proposes that Finance Committee Procedure 37A be amended, as well as the Establishment Subcommittee Procedure 31A and the Public Works Subcommittee Procedure 32A. This item seeks members' consideration of this proposal, and that is the amendment of the relevant procedure. During the deliberation of a particular item, members, prior to an item being put to the vote, members can move one motion without notice, and each member can move one single motion regarding a particular item. There will be two sessions for today. The first session is for 2 hours till about 6:25. We will take a 10-minute break if necessary. We're going to come back for a second session. Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal has been made available to members in the form of FC 165-4. The Secretariat has also kindly prepared a fact sheet regarding the proposal. This has been made available to members in paper FC 5/12-13. And on the 17th of October, Mr. Albert Chan wrote to the committee to say that Mr. Raymond Wong, Mr. Raymond Chan, and himself will be moving amendments to Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal, and the letter has been made available to members in paper FC 9/12-13. The Establishment Subcommittee and the PWSC Subcommittee Chairman discussed this matter, and a consensus has been reached. In view of the importance of the matter, the prior notice, there should be at least 5 days requirement for the notice to be made available to the Secretary. And for amendments, the notice period should be no more than 2 days. The Secretariat has made available a paper in relation to the procedure. There is a paper which has been tabled to members in relation to the procedure, informing members of the details. In order to allow sufficient time for members to consider Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal, I would propose that we focus our attention on the procedure, in particular the time for moving amendments or moving motions. Mr. IP Kwok-him can move the motion on the 26th of October 2012 for amendments. There will be discussions and they will be put to the vote. Members, please note that the deadline for amendment is the 22nd of October 2012 because 23rd is going to be a holiday. So please bear this in mind. And that is midnight on that day, 2059 is the deadline. In view of the importance of the matter, if subject to members' agreement, there will be a verbatim record for the meeting for ease of reference in future. I hope that members will spend no more than 5 minutes. Depending on how we go, we will keep to 5 minutes. With those who wish to put questions, please to press the button in front of them. Any members who wish to put questions? Miss Emily Lau, Chairman. The Democratic Party doesn't agree with this proposal. This is the first draconian piece of proposal of the Council. Members' right to express themselves is being curtailed gradually. We should give members some more room for expression. I don't want to start this debate now, but I think that if the procedure has to be amended, there has to be clear procedures, clear steps. Now today we have to lay down the procedures and the steps that Mr. Ip presented the proposal, and there may be 20-30 members who might wish to move amendments to Mr. Ip's proposal, or there may be members who would like to move amendments to other parts of the FCP. There should be some steps, there should be procedures for us to do so. Now you talked about the 5 days and 2 days and so on. Let's see whether we're going to have a consensus. Some said that there should be written text in Chinese and English, because what we are discussing today will be legally binding. It's not anything without legislative effect. I don't think the Democratic Party will have any objection to a mechanism. I think if we have a mechanism, we have to be clear about it. This is a place where there is rule of law, and we have to present, we have to have make sure that everything is written down. Now we haven't quite started. We haven't quite warmed up our seat, and we're talking about some amendments. New members haven't quite oriented themselves yet, and we are starting to talking about these amendments. This sounds to me to be so hasty. I think we ought to have the mechanism in place. I mean, somebody is trying to take away members' right to speak at the very beginning. I don't think many would subscribe to this idea. Mr. Lee Chuk-yan. Chairman, thank you. The Labour Party also objects to Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal. Why do we have to emasculate ourselves at the very beginning, like what Mr. Ip is proposing? I don't think any member will be proposing anything that would take away the right to speak. Now, moving motion is part of the right of members here. We are expressing ourselves on behalf of the members of the public, and you are stripping us of this particular right, or you're curtailing this particular right. Then I'm sure that going forward, members will be put in a straitjacket, and it will be difficult for us to say or state our views on behalf of the public. We object to this proposal, but Chairman, here things are done in a very, very hasty manner. I don't really know whether the Finance Committee would accept this like this. I think that there may need to have to be some procedures. I mean, I read the Chinese version. I don't really quite understand sometimes, because the Chinese version doesn't tally with the English version. Here, let me take out your proposal. 37A. Without any prior notice, one can move a motion, and each member will be allowed to move one motion the first motion in the beginning and the first motion at the end of your sentence, I'm not sure whether they are the same. It should be one motion and a motion. Now, without English version, are you talking about a motion or one motion? A motion is different, very different from one motion. If you were to say that on a particular subject, each member will be allowed to move a motion, then there can be many motions. One motion is only one single motion. Can you clarify in English version? I haven't got the English version here. I think it should be a motion instead of one motion. Here, in Chinese, you have one motion. I'm not sure whether you're referring to one motion or an a motion. Can this be clarified to start off with, Chairman? I think we should have both the Chinese and English version ready to count the 5 days. And second, now when it comes to amendment, we talked about 2 days. But if I were to move amendment to 37A, of course, we have to consider how this should be done. But what about the priority? Now, Mr. Ip has already moved this amendment. Is it going to be first come, first served? Or is it the case that if I move an amendment to the earlier part of the wordings, then I would come first? Now, this is the practice for the motions without a legislative effect. That's how we decide on the priority. If I were to move an amendment to 37A, how do we prioritize the order? All right. Today, we should work out the practice for the future. I'm not sure whether we should discuss Mr. Ip's proposal, the wording. Right, should we have both Chinese and English version available before we consider it as a proposal? A motion and one motion will make a world of difference. Second, going forward procedurally, how do you decide on the order? If there are 2 amendments being put in, who will be given the higher priority or the higher order? Are you talking about amendment to IP Kwok-him's amendment or amendment to 37? You talk about amendment to 37A. Right, I understand there are 2 days for amendment to Mr. Ip's amendment. But if I were to move an amendment to 37A, should it be decided by the date of submission or the order, the position, the order of the wording? All right, I defer to the legal advisor regarding a motion and one motion, and also the Chinese and English version. Which one would command a higher order? I get the feeling that it should be decided by the date of submission. If you were to move an amendment, there is one intervening holiday, mind you. If you move an amendment to 37A, then you can make it on the 26th. But date of submission is one thing, but when it comes to the wording, right, so it depends on what you're amending. If you're amending Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal, well, if IP Kwok-him and myself are putting in the amendment, are we deciding on the order on the basis of the order of the wording? Secretary. Chairman, thank you. Under the procedure, if members are moving an amendment in Chinese, then there will be an English translation of the Chinese version, which will be given to Mr. Ip for confirmation, and there will be an English version which will be agreed to by Mr. Ip. Now, Mr. Lee Chek-yen talked about the order of amendment. Now that Mr. IP Kwok-him has already moved a motion, and for members to move an amendment to this motion, like Mr. Lee Chek-yen said, will have to have regard to the Finance Committee procedure, and under the FCP, if there are more than one amendment, then we will have to have regard to the order of the wording. If the part being amended is the same, then we'll look at the timing, the date of submission. What about a motion and one motion? Mr. Ip has only submitted a Chinese version. The English version is not available yet. Mr. IP Kwok-him, Chairman, thank you. Well, I regret to say that Mr. Chairman, you talked about the procedure. I think you are already talking about the procedure. I mean, all these members are criticizing me for stripping them of the freedom. I think you should have asked me to make my views known to members, and you start to talk about all these procedure. I do feel very strongly about it. Now, how should we deal with the arrangement? I am acting in strict accordance with the Finance Committee procedure. I submitted this proposal for discussion. I don't think I have breached the FCP, but I was acting in strict accordance with the FCP. Can this be confirmed? Confirmed what? Following the yes, you follow the FCP. All right, previously, nobody moved any amendment to the Finance Committee procedure, that I know. Now, for the PWSC, the ESC, after discussion, should there be procedure for making amendments? But I heard of this proposal. I think that this can be considered and discussed. I've submitted this proposal. You're free to amend my proposal that I don't have any strong view. I hope, Mr. Chairman, that we should focus our attention on this, on how we should do it. For the details, I think once we have got the procedure out of the way, then we should move on to this. Well, I hope that you will put in place some arrangement, Mr. Chairman. Now, the Secretariat has proposed the procedures. I think that these proposed procedures are on the basis of the existing practice. Like, for instance, 5 days of requirement for moving the amendment, the motion, and 2 days for amendment. I welcome these procedures. And there can be amendments to my motion. Now, we would like to come up with the procedures. I don't really want to have a committee without any stated procedures. If there are loopholes, I want to plug them. Thank you. Mr. Gary Fan, Chairman, thank you. This is how I look at this. Myself and the New Democrats do not think that we should be hasty in moving any amendments to 37A. My view is that under the Basic Law and also under the setup after the handover, we have inherited this executive-led system from the colonial days. If the executive authority were to strip to undermine our right to speak, then it would not be good for Hong Kong's interests. It would not be good for the governance in Hong Kong. And Mr. Ip said that I mentioned these technical issues. I've got 2 questions for the chairman. Para 13, the chairman can exercise the discretion and waive this prior notice requirement. So, Chairman, under what principles, under what circumstances would you exercise this particular discretion? Second, Mr. IP Kwok-him made the point a moment ago that he welcomed members to move amendments to his amendment or to his motion. Now, this is an opportunity for us to have a look at the meeting procedures. Now, other members said that in this regard they've sought certain views. I think that if we can take this opportunity to have a good discussion, if I have any proposed amendments to any other part to the FCP other than 37A, what are the procedures going to be like? The reason I bring this up because Mr. IP Kwok-him moved this amendment. It is going to be overriding. I mean, if this goes through, then any amendments that will run counter to the principle in this amendment, we will not be able to do it because this is going to strip us of the right to limit us to only one single motion. Procedurally, I mean, if we look at the procedures, how will the chairman look at the amendments, other amendments to the FCP, other than the 37A? How will the chairman look at the prior notice and the timing and so on?
Now, to answer the question on discretion, first, many things will happen. Say, for example, there may be a typo, and if the chairman doesn't have the power to shorten the notice requirement, then many important things may be delayed. So the discretion should be given to the chairman. Well, I am not quite sure about your question. Now, if you want to move section, are you going to move amendment to 37A? Or are you going to move a motion to amend other parts of the ROP, the Rules of Procedure? If we agree on the 5-day and 2-day rule, then you can make a notice 5 days in advance to amend a certain provision. And if other people want to amend your amendment, then they can do so by giving a 2-day notice. If you want to submit an amendment to 37A, you can do so. You have 5 clear days. Now, if we are to discuss the matter on the 26th of October next year, then you don't have enough time because of an intervening public holiday. But we can discuss it after. We can discuss at the meeting after the 26th of October. Do you have a follow-up question? Not at the moment. Next, Mr. Alan Leong. Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Fan's question is very clear. Now, you say that if today we pass the 5-day and 2-day rule, that is 5 days for moving the amendment to the rules and 2 days for amending the amendment to the rules. You have done the calculation for Mr. Fan because that is not enough time because of the intervening Chongyang Festival. Say if 37A is tabled next week, Friday next week, and we really don't know whether we can pass this proposed amendment to procedures. If members want to move amendment 37A, the earliest is the 2nd for discussion. If you've already voted on Mr. Yip's amendment, then what's the point of having further discussion on 37A on the 2nd of November? Let me state the position of the Sixth Party on Mr. Yip's proposal. His proposal is to further restrict members of the FC to move motions. And this is a restriction on our room to negotiate matters, and we are against it. Now today we are not going to discuss the amendment, we are discussing the procedural matters. I want to know whether the Secretariat or the legal advisor has a point of view. Now, the chairman has deemed that Mr. Ip has given a 5-day notice, but the rules of procedure or the FCP doesn't have this 5-day rule. Now, you cannot just announce the rules and then everybody can add anything to that. You cannot shift the rules or shift the goalpost. Concerning amending the FCP, I don't know whether the Secretariat has considered this, and that is the FCP number 30, and that is the committee can form its own procedures, and that is exemption from 7113 of the ROP. Now, we are going to amend the existing FCP. Do we need to go back to the CROP, Committee on Rules and Procedures, according to 75? The rules of procedures are set by all members. Is there a need to let the CROP to discuss that and then to be endorsed by the whole council? The legal advisor, concerning the power to set procedures, it is the power is authorized by the rules of procedures. The rules of procedures does not require the rules endorsed by this committee to be brought back to the full council meeting for endorsement before taking effect. When the rules are for this committee are passed by this committee, then they can come into effect immediately. But changing the rules in the middle of the game, in the middle of the race, or whether we should go back to the starting line. Now, on the 10th of October, once the chairman and vice chairman were elected, he immediately submitted his letter asking us to discuss 37A, the amendment to 37A. And then after discussion, there should be a vote. I make reference to a precedent or practice, and that is the administration is required to submit their proposals at least 6 clear days before the meeting. On that day, it was the 10th of October. Today is the 19th of October, so there is an intervening 8 or 9 days, not just 5 days. Therefore, I approved the proposal to be discussed. It is not changing the rules in the middle of a race. Now, we need to discuss the procedure, because some members say that they will move amendments. Now, at our Wednesday meeting, we had a meeting together with the chairman and vice chairman of the FC, the PWSC, and the ESC. We think the motion should be binding and should not be raised offhand. Now, this is the consensus of 6 people. There should be a written proposal. Now, if it is written proposal, then or written amendment, then you must give some time to the Secretariat to make preparation and let members see the amendments. So I suggest that we have 5 clear days of notice for moving an amendment to the committee procedure, and 2 days for moving an amendment to that amendment. Now, in the past, when there was a proposal to change the rules, usually it was made by the Secretary. The Secretary will draft a proposal, and then the chairman will consult members, and then if members are agreeable, then the document is put in front of members and then endorsed. And no one has ever moved an amendment. So this is indeed unprecedented. Chairman, I agree with you that that is unprecedented. Now you look at the Finance Committee procedures. There is no clear provision on the way to amend our own FCP. So this is unprecedented, and therefore we need to discuss it. But I cannot agree that if we now that is unprecedented. If we have decided on how we amend our procedure, and if we have to go back to the starting point, that will be unfair to Mr. Yip. I don't think that's fair, because we don't have the rules. We don't have the procedures. This time, if we are to make a decision, it will become a precedent. Now, if we endorse that today, that has just been adopted. Now, if you assume that the 10th of October is the starting point, then the race has already started. Legal advisor. Concerning the existing FCP, it is said that there is no mechanism for handling members' motions. But in fact, there is a paper in front of members pointing out that in the year 2007, when a review was conducted on the FCP, and amendments made, there was something said on the use of FCP 37. I have a document which, in drawing up the paper, reference was made. FCR 2007-2008, number 33, 2nd of November 2007. It explains that the motion to be dealt with includes members' motion to amend the committee procedure. Now, the English is a bit clearer, if I may say so. There should be necessary modifications of the ROP of the Council in order to apply such to the Finance Committee. Why the FC can have can have other decisions. The implication is that in the operation of the FC, the chairman has to make a judgment on the first instance to deal with certain procedural matters. If the FC doesn't find that problematic, then it will continue to take effect, and the committee can discuss with the chairman on the decision made by the chairman. It's not that there is no mechanism. In fact, there is a mechanism, although it may not be put down in black and white. Can we be provided with the document on the 2nd of November 2007? I will get members to make a photocopy of that. In fact, the last FC, when considering amending the FCP, was submitted to members for consideration. And in fact, that has been endorsed. Next speaker, Mr. K.K. Fong. Chairman, I do not agree with the proposal to restrict members' rights to move amendments. The LegCo power to monitor the administration is very limited. One of the powers is the financial aspect. Among our vetting of bills and also raising questions. Now I asked the administration on consultation, and the administration and the official or director of bureau just didn't know what approaches the bureau departments adopted to consult the public. Now we have new information coming up from time to time in the discussion with government officials, and if we want to move a motion to express our wish, then we will not be able to do so. Now, if we have no rules in black and white, and now we are going to put the rules in black and white, then now assuming that we pass the rules, then the rules should only be adopted after it has been enacted, and you cannot have introduced a kind of retrospective effect and count when he submitted count the date when he submitted this paper, because when he submitted the paper, the rules had not yet come into effect. Now today what we are discussing is very simple, and that is when an amendment is to be made, how many days of advance notice will be required. What I hope is that we can set the requirements. At present, the chairman has the discretion. In fact, I am just undercutting my power. I just let you know. I just want you to know more about how this committee operates. Now, the legal advisor. In assisting Mr. Allen Leung to understand the situation, I made reference to this. Now, if you say that there is no procedure, we do not have the requirement that if you move a motion, you need to give 12 days of advance notice and amendment 5 days of notice, but the chairman can waive the notice requirement. But according to Section 37 of the FCP, it says that the rules will not be put down in black and white. The committee can adapt Rule 29 to 35 of the ROP. 12 clear days. Should that 12-day rule be complied with, we have to consider the operation of the FC. the amendment is not only to amend the rules or to amend the procedure. The amendment can also be used to amend the financial proposals made by the administration under Cap 2. According to the FCP, the administration gives 6 clear days of notice and provide the document 5 clear days in advance. At present, the owners or the responsibilities put on the shoulders of the chairman of the FC. Now, if he makes a wrong judgment, he may be challenged by the committee. He can only deal with it according to individual circumstances. Now, the member who moved the motion filed the motion at the first instance of the FC meeting. Now, if you say that we have no procedure to deal with motion moved by members, in fact, there is. If you look deeper.
Or perhaps let me supplement. Just now a member mentioned this point. What are the criteria adopted by the chairman in exempting the advance notice? One example is that when dealing with typos, for example, the committee will not, under such circumstances, get in the way of approving some proposals or giving effect to some proposals. Now, in exercising this power, from the legal point of view, in terms of due process, I think consideration has to be given to the reasonable interest of the members concerned. Of course, the reasonable interested parties means the member of the committee as well as the committee itself. He has to satisfy the chairman of the committee that there are grounds for putting forward such proposal. Secondly, as for this proposal which does not meet the notice requirement, a meaningful consideration can be given, and consideration has to be given whether the matter will be put to a vote in a meaningful sense. So this is the criteria for the chairman to follow in deciding whether to exempt the notice requirement. I think this is the basic principle for the chairman to consider. Mr. Chen Kam-lam. Chairman, now the focus of our discussion is on setting a mechanism for members to move motions to amend the procedures. As agreed by Ms. Emily Lau just now, it's better to have a mechanism than none at all. So I also agree that there should be a mechanism. Once we have the mechanism, we can follow the mechanism and exercise due process. Without such mechanism, well, of course, according to the rules of procedure or the FCP, a member can still move a motion without notice. So why, on this occasion, has this proposal be put forward? That's exactly because in June, when we were scrutinizing a proposal in June, we saw a large number of meaningless amendments, and a lot of time was wasted. Some members say that this proposal will restrict a member's right to move motions and restrict our power in monitoring the government. But in fact, these accusations are not true. In expressing views, we have other channels other than moving motions. In discussing a particular proposal, we also have opportunities to discuss and debate, so that in no way are our rights being restricted. And we can also vote on the matter as a means to monitor the use of public money. So I hope that members will not view this motion as one which restricts a member's rights to move motions, or even making accusations like self-castration. Now, what about in future if we want to move any amendments to the procedures? We can follow this mechanism. This is to ensure that there are a clear set of rules to follow for the Finance Committee when we run things. I hope that members can take this viewpoint. Dr. Kenneth Chen. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, about the ongoing discussion, I have this observation. Chairman said that his power or his right is being restricted, and earlier on some members talked about how our rights would be affected. I'd like to see things from another perspective. We're not talking about our authority or our rights. We're talking about our duties and obligations. We sit here not because of the particular powers or authorities or rights that we can enjoy, but according to the laws of Hong Kong and the rules of procedure and the established practices, what we do is to help our people and to do things for our country. If we take this perspective, this discussion is a very serious one. Since 1992, I have been teaching politics in the UK, and I have this sensitivity accumulated as a result on parliamentary procedures. Let's imagine an effective mechanism is like a bird's nest. A bird's nest has to be built over time. You need to have hay and the soil, and bit by bit, a solid mechanism can be built. Say if we are going to amend something in this mechanism, or say if we want to change one pieces of straw in the nest, then they will have an impact. So from the experience of the UK Parliament, or whatever Parliament, we need to have an in-depth analysis. This is about the duties and obligations of members. So my first reaction is that if we arbitrarily move a motion on a particular section of the procedures without understanding the duties and obligations of members and the impact on the mechanism, I really don't think that we should single it out. This is the first point. I hope, Chairman, you would take note of that. This is my thoughts on the matter. Well, you can't just say that since somebody has moved a motion on or put this forward on the 10th, we should go ahead. We should take a holistic view on the mechanism. It's not that we're trying to resort to delaying tactics to stop Mr. Ip Kwok-him's motion in amending Rule 37. This is important. The second point is that, in fact, the proposal or the motion can be separated. But in fact, I moved an adjournment debate at the last council meeting, and I'd like to have that opportunity to express my view. I'd also like other members to take part in that debate to express their views. It's very intact under the existing mechanism, and it's also relevant. So if we will it be in any way weakening the link? And what about our duties and obligations? I still have 5 minutes left. I can come back to that. But I need to say something about the English and Chinese versions. If we look at FCP 34, I have a point on the language used. There is a section which says that all the papers are in both Chinese and English. This is very important. As a new member, as I heard the briefing given by our legal advisor, we were told this. As members, we must read both the English and Chinese text because sometimes translation may not be able to give the fullest meaning. So that's why we need to check both versions. Today, I see the Chinese version of Mr. Ip Kwok-him's proposal, but I'm expecting the English version because different people may express differently in English and Chinese. So we need to check both versions in considering what issue we are discussing. Because there is a view on Mr. Ip Kwok-him's proposal. Is it 1 or A? It's just a difference of 1 word, but a lot of problems may arise. Sorry, Chairman, I have given a lengthy speech. I hope that I have the opportunity to supplement. Next, Dr. Kwok-him. Thank you, Chairman. Well, a lot of members some just now said that it's all right because Mr. Ip Kwok-him is just trying to amend the FCP, and some members said that it restricts the rights of members. In fact, it's not that simple. It's written in the Basic Law, Article 2, that the executive legislative powers can be enjoyed, and Article 11 says that the system and policies practiced in the region, including socio-economic systems, shall be based on the provisions of law, and also 75 of the Basic Law, the rules of procedures of the Legislative Council shall be decided by the Council. Well, in fact, what Mr. Ip Kwok-him said is actually in contrary to all the laws. Is enshrined in the Basic Law that the Council should monitor the government, and in terms of the use of in terms of public finance. So we're given the authority under the Basic Law, and this is just a very basic. Just now, legal advisor said that in terms of the public notice given by the administration, the notice period is 5 days. But this is not a public notice. The Finance Committee is exercising its power given by the Council, and it's basically a power given by the Basic Law, so it is very important. In fact, in Rule 74 of the ROP, 74 of the ROP Record 1 says that the committee should have the power to scrutinize anything related or any matter related by related to the procedure relating or referred by the council as committee. So if we are going to implement such a major change, I can't see how we can do things casually. Just now, the legal advisor said that according to FCR 2007-2008 bracket 33, you said that after adaptation it can be used. But according to another rule, it's clearly written that 12 days are required, and if a motion is moved, any amendment must abide by the 5-day notice rule. So there are different periods to consider, including the one in 29, and also, so it is very controversial, and we must not do things very casually and say that why not shorten it to 5 days. It's very dangerous, and if we really change the FCP, that means we're changing the rules of the game. Because, well, you haven't set down the rules of the game even. Well, you said it's unprecedented. That's why we have to discuss it here. Because you haven't set down the rules of the games. If you don't go back to the starting point, I think it's not fair. Chairman, you said that we may try to we may try 5 days and 2 days for amendment. This should be a careful decision. If Mr. Ip Kwok-him is allowed to make such a proposal to implement such a major change, I think that it will affect the implementation of basic law in Hong Kong. I'd like to remind members that this is our first meeting, and I'm adopting a rather lax approach. If next week members still speak beyond 5 minutes, then the government officials may not be able to reply to you. So you need to respect the rules. You need to allow time for me to reply to your question. Next, Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you, Chairman. On the 17th of October, I took part in the meeting between the chairman and deputy chairman of the 3 committees. The meeting lasted for some 2 hours. And in fact, Mr. Ip Kwok-him's motion has huge impact, and it also has a binding effect or legislative effect. So we really need to look at the procedure. And I have some observations on the procedure. Just now, the legal advisor said that on the 2nd of November 2007, in one FC paper, FCR 2007-08-33, we endorsed the following. If an amendment is to be made to the procedures of the Finance Committee or its subcommittees, we can rely on 37 of the FCP, the Finance Committee Procedures. So, what is Rules 37 of the FCP about? If we want the amendment to 37A to have legislative effect if the whole committee should decide on the matter, and I believe that this change will have a profound impact. I think that the decision should be made by the whole council instead of the chairman exercising his discretion.
Well, I wouldn't dispute that the chairman can exercise his discretion. I said this because, first of all members should decide whether we are going to adopt 29 to 35, all the requirements prescribed in FCP 29 to 35. If this is the collective decision, then so be it. And then we have to decide, the entire Finance Committee will have to decide whether there should be any necessary modifications. Of course, these what are these necessary modifications? Chairman Tommy Cheung talked about the 5 days and 2 days. It's only when there would be no alternatives that these would be feasible timing. But we are talking about important decisions. Now, the first hurdle is whether 29 to 35 would apply. This is something for us all to decide. Second, the modifications. What sort of modifications are we talking about? Will they be restricted to modifications to the notification period, or would there be any other modifications that we are talking about? There's a second hurdle. Of course, the third hurdle is that if we have decided that the notice period would be one problem, then we have to decide whether it should be 5 days, 6 days, or 7 days, or it should be 12 days as prescribed in the rules of procedure. Now, having got these three questions out of the way, then we have to decide in relation to Mr. Kwok-him's letter whether the format and also the way it is submitted is in line with the procedures for motions. Now, if we have looked at these 4 steps and then decide Mr. Ip's letter is in order, then the timing, that I don't know. I mean, if we count from the day it is submitted, then we are playing foul. Now, should we decide on the date or count from the day it is submitted? I think, shouldn't we be fairer to everybody? Shouldn't we have fairer and open procedures? Well, a moment ago, I think we have explained sufficiently clear. Mr. Leung, are you leaving? If you are, then we don't have to do any more explanation. Mr. Albert Ho. Chairman, you've heard our analysis. Mr. Kenneth Leung is a lawyer by profession, and I'm not sure what outcome will there be if this is taken to the court. I think you ought to be cautious. If you endorse it, then we start from there. Then it's another matter. We're dealing with something constitutional. Now, you may be talking about the submission of motion. It may sound as if it is a very straightforward procedure, but I mean, there would be implications on the number of motions people or members can move. This is constitutional in nature. This is absolutely important. This is a matter of controversy. So I think the wise course of action is to adopt a cautious approach and to avoid any unnecessary argument. I think Mr. Ip can resubmit the proposal. It's not within these couple of weeks that we have to discuss the matter. And let's not dwell on the legal technicalities. This is an important matter. we ought to have more discussions. The idea of having the Committee on Rules of Procedure is for us to discuss the fundamental issues within the system. How should we discharge our duties? These are significant matters. We should have consensus before we go ahead with it. Even in the absence of any consensus, we should have had all the arguments advanced and discussed at the Committee on Rules of Procedures. We've got so many questions. We derive. We have the PWSE. We have to decide whether this is in conflict with House rules and the basic law and all the relevant legislation. We have to look at all these. I mean, these are legal technicalities. But having said that, I still feel that the political issue is more important. Councillors are here to debate issues. We have the right, we have the responsibilities. Should we so likely endorse something to strip us of these rights or curtail these rights? This has been around for so long. Why the rush to get this out of the way? Why can't we have more discussions? Why are we ignoring this time-honored tradition of referring controversial matters to the Committee on Rules of Procedures for discussion? What's wrong with that? So I hope that the Secretariat or the legal advisor might offer some advice for House Committee or Finance Committee. They can decide on the rules. I think this is something that is debatable because there may be something more fundamental. But what's wrong with referring the matters to the Committee on Rules of Procedure? Have we done that before? If we have, why don't we do the same right now? All right, I think we have covered this a moment ago. Secretary, previously, when the Finance Committee amended the procedures, it would be through the Secretariat presenting papers. There were some previous cases. In 2007, we revised 37A, the ESC, and the PWC didn't have any rules. Well, Secretary, I understand that. Now, if there is no objection, we can just sign on the dotted line without having to have any meetings. But right now, we are talking about very controversial subject. Members on this side of the chamber are all in opposition. We are forced to resort to all kinds of means to challenge that. We don't really want to see this at the very beginning of the term. Is it the case that the whole system has been paralyzed so much so that we have to resort to this? This is a matter of constitution. Do you want us to respond to these questions? Well, I know what they were going to say. Mr. Ronnie Tong. Chairman, I'd like to remind members, again, including the Secretary and the legal advisor, that what we are basically talking about. What we are talking about is how to amend the FCP, the Finance Committee Procedure. The procedures are things that we are talking about. You made the assumption, Mr. Chairman, about the 5 days notice for amendment, and it is wholly unfair to members. It is also against the procedural integrity. From now to next week, we don't really have 5 days. I mean, in other words, I can't move any amendments at all. I'm talking about my own amendment. I'm not talking about IP Kwok-him's amendment. I don't take it as a fall. I make it sound as if the proposal is not there. If I were to amend, Mr. Ip, point of order. Well, can you take me as a fool, or can you say that I'm not in existence? What I'm saying is that we can put your proposal aside, right? He has made a clarification. He's putting your proposal aside. He's looking forward. All right, we can spend 5 minutes talking about this, but it doesn't help matters. Please give me a couple more minutes, seconds. 37A. If I were to move this wording, move a motion without notice. If I were to amend this to say they may move a motion or more motions without notice. This is a motion or one motion. Under our usual practice, if I move this amendment, then my amendment should come before Mr. Ip's. But if I were to have do it within 5 days, then it will not be fair. It is against the due process. Now, I wonder why 5 whole days. The legal advisor said that 37 says that subject to the decision of the committee made from time to time, rules 29 to 35 of the rules of procedure. But that's 12 days. The legal advisor is saying that we have to adapt to the finance committee's operation. I mean, we were presented with this paper. This is neither here nor there, because what is said here in this paper is government's members' amendment to government's motion. Now, you said that there should be 6 days prior notice. We're not talking about this. We are talking about amendment to the Finance Committee procedure. Now, this is not the same as when or how soon the government is going to present the motion. It's got nothing to do with that. We are talking about an amendment to the FCP. So I think you ought to be bound by 29 of the rules of procedure, and that is 12 days. In terms of due process, I think this is fairer. Very simply, if you were to say the Ronitong 3 days, how about 3 days? Well, you can say that, but that is really plucking the number from thin air. I mean, you can really do so. If it is 3 days, if someone were to move an amendment to my amendment, how many days are you going to give him? And how many days are you going to give him to consider the matter? Mr. IP Kwok-him's amendment doesn't come with any English version. The Secretary can translate that for him, but I'm not sure whether he would agree with the translation. He may have to amend the Secretariat's translation, and I think I need the Chinese and the English version in front of me before I can decide whether to support it or not, and that's not fair. So the upshot of my argument is that I hope that the legal advisor would consider my proposal. The 5 days is not in line with the ROP requirement. It's not really in line with the due process. I think a more reasonable and sensible approach is 12 days of notice. If you allow everybody to amend the FCP in a fair manner, then I think that this proposal, which should be discussed next week, should be deferred to another week. I'm not sure whether we should be able to do it, because first of all, we have to discuss the government funding proposal first, i.e. the fruit money. I think that this will take us until midnight, so we probably wouldn't have time to deal with Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal. So I think a sensible proposal, I hope you would consider seriously. A better proposal is to follow the 12 days under ROP, and whoever would like to move 37A would need to give a notice of 12 days, because our proposal might come before Mr. Ip's. If my amendment were to be carried, then Mr. IP Kwok-him's amendment doesn't have to be voted on. So how can you ignore this procedural possibility? I know I've used up my time, but I hope the members would mull over what I said just a moment ago. Well, I know the members would like to discuss this, and I try to let members have the time. And you talked about IP Kwok-him, and you've lengthened your argument. Well, I mean, it was just a catchphrase. Well, please don't argue with me over that. You've retracted what you said. You said that you merely tried to brush aside his proposal for the time being. Well, if the legal advisor needs time to consider this, fine. I hope that the legal advisor might wish to respond to my points. Okay, right. I think the legal advisor and secretariat will address your questions. I think let's hear from the members first. You talked about 5 days or 6 days. If you look at the para 21, 22, I've read the paper. What I don't agree. Well, if you don't agree, then there is nothing I can do about it. We're reading the same thing. I'm trying to explain this to you, but you are in disagreement. You are in disagreement with what I say. Then I rest my case. If you want the secretariat to explain that, fine. Well, I'm asking the legal advisor because it's a technical matter. Would you let the legal advisor? Right, the legal advisor will address all the questions because they are similar. Mr. Leung Yu-chong. Chairman, thank you. Well, honestly, I hope that Mr. IP Kwok-him would consider this. Do we really have to vote on this next week? If you listen to the views expressed by members, it is not such a simple matter. And I mean, you're trying to curb the situation that you consider undesirable. There are so many problems and so much implication, like Mr. Albert Ho said. I mean, there are so many issues that bound up together. It's not simply an amendment to a livelihood issue. It's not as straightforward as that. I mean, it would involve some fundamental or constitutional dimension, as alluded to by some of my colleagues. Why the rush? Well, this is going to be endorsed anyway. One week or so would not make that much of a difference. Next week, like a member said, we all know we're going to take the old age living allowance ahead of any other business. Now, even if there is, if there is going to be filibustering, this proposal will not be voted on anyway. It doesn't make any difference at all. Why can't we have a more thorough discussion and debate and earnestly deal with the issue? I mean, wouldn't it be a better approach? Other than this, if I may follow up on Mr. Albert Ho's points. The first one is the legal matter. I hope that the legal advisor would address this because everything is so bound up together. The second issue is the political issue. The political issue on this, I don't really want to dwell on it. Many members have spoken on this already. Even if this is endorsed, some said, our right to speak will not be curtailed. Well, this may not curtail our right, our room to express ourselves, but in terms of our right to keep the government in check, that certainly would be undermined. Under the basic law, the members, in terms of private members' bills, the basic law has, to a large extent, stripped us of this particular right. Before 1997, there moved an amendment to the housing ordinance. This was amended by Mr. Chen Kam-lam, but still it was carried. But as far as the government is concerned, it represented a major change. The Basic Law has really restricted us to a large extent, so much so that we cannot really exercise a monitoring function, exercise our checks and balances against the government in terms of policies.
Now, as for the Finance Committee,
如果我哋嗰個嘅修訂嘅權力都被削，
Finance Committee's power is to vet government spending and proposals. If our power is also curtailed, how can we discharge our duties fully? Now, let us take the OH living allowance as an example. A lot of things have to be amended as far as that proposal is concerned. If you just allow me to move one amendment, that is not adequate. And I really can't choose a single amendment from the many amendments I want to move. Now, concerning the upper limit of $186,000, some political parties are raising it to $500,000. And what about declaration of assets? And what about the amount of allowance? Should it be just 2,200? There are a lot of amendments. And if you restrict the number of amendments, you are restricting our freedom of expression. I hope Mr. Yip will withdraw that and consider it anew. Since there is still some time left, I don't know whether the legal advisor will respond to the legal points, interrelated points, suggested by Mr. Ho. Members have finished their first round of questions. For the second round, we have Mr. Li Chaoyan, Ms. Emily Lau, and the line. Yes, one more. Mr. Tam Yu Chung, he has just pressed the button. Mr. Tam, would you please also give your views? Now, you said that members have finished the first round. I just beat the deadline and yet push a button. In view of the incident last term, Mr. IP Kwok-him proposed change to the FCP. In fact, he did openly made such a point. After he made such a point, he then submitted his proposal according to the existing FCPs. And the chairman and vice chairman of the FC and its subcommittees now have made proposals on procedures handling such amendments. That is to clarify the situation, and that is something we have to decide today. Members raise a lot of questions, whether there is an English version, but in the past we used to just have a Chinese version, and the English version may just be provided sometime later. Some are concerned about the loss of chance to give views. Well, there is no problem with that. You will be given ample time by the chairman to express your views, I believe. Now, we are just talking about moving one motion, but that motion can include many things. And so you don't need to be worried about the content of the motion. That is taken care of. You may not agree with the amendment proposed by Mr. Kwok-him, but we still have a chance to discuss that. But the most important thing is to establish the procedures first, and the proposal in front of us should be accepted. Legal advisor. Mr. Chairman, thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify the information provided to the FC. Perhaps I have not made myself clear.
聲稱呢就第37。
A member said that our FCP 37 does not include or does not cover members' proposal to amend the FCP. Now, the Secretary has provided the relevant paper and also the minutes of the meeting dealing with that issue. If you may refer to paragraph 11 of the minutes, now it said that the resolution is about substantive decision of the FC, including motion to amend procedure. In the minutes, there is a similar reference. And therefore, these things, or they, confirm that motion under 37 does include amendment to the procedure of the FC. As for the reference to whether the present proposal will be in breach of the Public Finance Ordinance, the House rules, I think he may be referring to the rules of procedures and also the basic law. Mr. Chairman, this is a very serious issue, but I have not seen any justification for this argument. And if need be, we'll look into this issue to assist, in order to assist the committee. Its importance, of course, is confirmed. Reference is made to procedural justice. I do not want to give lectures on this common law principle. At least, with regard to this concern, I've mentioned adequate information, adequate time. With regard to the chairman, committee, and members moving the motion, the arrangement have to be fair to them all, and also fairness is also seen in implementing the generality and consistency of the rules. You may have exemptions, but the exceptions have to be proportionate. Now, at the end of the day, it is the decision of the Finance Committee. The Secretary, do you have anything to add? Members made reference to the notice requirement as set by the chairman. FCP para 2122 provide for the notice requirement. Members may refer to that, and I'm not going to repeat that. Mr. Lee Chia-yan, this is the beginning of second round. Mr. Lee Chia-yan. Now, it is said that Mr. Yip moves the amendment according to the procedure. But if we look at another paper, we see a timetable. Now, after he made his proposal, FC 10, 12, 13, 01, the one just tabled this afternoon, Mr. Kwok-him made the proposal on the 10th of October. In para 11, it is said that it is further proposed that the notice requirement motion should not apply to Mr. Kwok-him's proposal to amend the three sets of procedure respective as his letter. Blah, blah, blah. But when there was no 5 clear day requirement when Mr. Yip made the proposal. Now, when he made the proposal, there was no procedure. Yes, there was. There was no requirement on advance notice. There was no requirement. Now, with regard to government documents, 6 days, and we have 5 clear days. And my decision at that time, according to our FCP number 22, FCR 22, a Finance Committee agenda item is a discussion paper seeking approval for changes to approve of estimates, so on and so forth. There is a certain notice requirement. And I think, basing on that, he has complied with Rule 22 and also to Rule 21. Now, there should be a discussion and then afterwards a voting. And with regard to that, he has submitted his motion more than 5 clear days in advance. When any member makes such a suggestion, he doesn't know there is a change in the FCP. And he does not know the change that the notice requirement for amending FCP, and therefore the 6 chairman and vice chairman had a meeting, and you, Mr. Chairman, decided on 5 days. The FC has not discussed that. If the whole Finance Committee has not discussed that, then shouldn't that be first discussed? And that is whether the 5 clear days of notice should be applicable to 37A. If we have agreed that it should be, it is 5 clear days. Somebody may propose 6 clear days, and somebody 7 clear days. After it has been agreed, then any amendment to FCP will be so many days. And from then on, there is the procedure for amending the FCP. And if somebody moves a motion, then starting from that day, the requirement rule will prevail. You have put the cart before the horse. We don't know where the carriage is going. Suddenly it says that 5 days. Shouldn't we first discuss whether it should be 5 days? We should have a paper on this and discuss that, and if we endorse that, then starting from that day onwards, if there is a motion to amend the procedures, then the submission should be how many clear days in advance. Now, you just said that it is a proposal. Shouldn't we need to adopt the proposal? If we need to adopt the proposal or accept the proposal, then there should be a paper for discussing the procedure. And after we have decided on the procedure, then all the amendment will be made according to procedure. Now, whether you like it or not, there is a precedent. I ruled and I adopted 5 days as a requirement. Let me finish first. I have made a judgment, made a ruling, whether you like it or not. Now, the decision is on 5 clear days, and then the amendment has to be in writing. And you cannot move the amendment just before the voting and resort to 37A and keep filing in amendments. We are not discussing 37A. I suggest we require a written amendment and also the notice requirement. My suggestion is 5 plus 2. We are discussing that. If you don't agree, if all members agree 12 days and 7 days, although I don't think that may be feasible in the FC, that's a requirement of the whole LegCo meeting. We don't need to follow the full LegCo meeting on every rule. If we look at Rule 21, 22, we just have 6 days and 5 days. Like it or not, the precedent has been set. But Chairman, you are self-contradictory. And that is a point of order. Now you already ruled. If you have already ruled, then you don't need to make a proposal. Now, since you say it is a proposal in the paper, shouldn't that be endorsed by this committee? And this procedure will only come into effect after it has been endorsed. If Mr. Ip is to move any amendment, then shouldn't he move the amendment after the new procedure has been endorsed? What's before us is a proposal, but not a ruling. Or are you just proposing to us is 5+2? And we may not agree with that, and the political parties may have to discuss it among themselves. Mr. Chairman, if I may suggest to you that we should discuss whether it should be 5+2, and there should be a paper to justify why it should be 5+2. And if there is a paper, then let us discuss that paper next week. And if we've decided in favor of the proposal in the paper, then starting from that day onwards, it will be 5+2 days or 7 or 12+7 days. The procedure will follow. So before we have the 5+2 days procedure, Mr. Yip has already moved the motion. That is not right because there is no procedure endorsed. So, point of order, Mr. Chairman, shouldn't the Finance Committee discuss that? Of course, not today. Say we get a meeting day, and then there will be a formal paper to discuss the procedure, and then after we endorse the procedure, then any amendment to the FCP will follow. And I hope Mr. Yip will not make proposal to self-castration. Well, now if the procedure is agreed, then Mr. Yip will follow that. Now you've spent 8 minutes and 11 seconds. I'm talking about point of order. Concerning point of order, we have discussed it many times before. It's all right to make a proposal. I think you have a problem with the procedure. Our agenda is to discuss the amendment, and I propose 2 days. No, that's not right. Your proposal is not for 2 days. Now, in paragraph 11, you say it is a proposal. We should discuss your proposal. Do you propose 5+2? You are not just proposing 2 days. You must first propose 5 days. Please look at the paper. It is a proposal of 5 days plus 2 days. So we hope that we first discuss whether it should be 5+2. This is a proposal to ask you to discuss and then vote on whether you accept 5+2. But this is not applicable to the motion moved by Mr. Kwok-him. His motion I have already ruled on his motion and it has been put on the agenda. You cannot say that because there is no 5+2 or 12+17 and this is not the point. Now that is a legal point. The legal advisor, he doesn't have the 5+2, and then the chairman has already ruled that Mr. Yip can table that motion. Are we going to apply for an injunction? I really don't want to go to the court, but I hope the legal advisor can explain to us whether 5+2, the procedure 5+2 should come first before Mr. Yip can move his motion. The chairman cannot just rule that Mr. Yip has already submitted the motion according to a procedure which has yet to be adopted. Well, I really don't want to go to the court and get an injunction. Legal advisor. Mr. Chairman, I think the legal issue that has to be considered is whether the chairman of the FC has properly exercised his power according to para 37 of the FCP, and also the power to set the agenda and the meeting date.
FC.
Now, according to the paper table today, FC 10/1213 (01), para 9, I believe that it accurately explains para 37 of FCP and the basis of its application. Pursuant to para 37 of FCP, which incorporates rules 29 to 35 of the ROP, with necessary modifications as may be determined by the chairman, but subject to the Finance Committee. So just now, I talked about how the chairman handled the letter received on the 10th of October on an amendment to para 37A. Just now, he said very clearly that he already has made a ruling. Now, if this committee is to discuss the 5+2 days arrangement as to whether it's applicable to an item that has been ruled to become an agenda item, the consideration should be based on whether there is any public interest, whether it is a matter of public interest to give it retrospective effect. So, as said here, the notice requirement of motions should not apply to Mr. Kwok-him's proposal to amend the 3 sets of procedures retrospectively. So if the committee agrees to the 5+2 arrangement, then no retrospective effect should be given, to the effect that legal ambiguity may be caused to motions already tabled. It should be dealt with according to the established procedure. Chairman, we're talking about the procedure of tabling a motion. As for when and how it should be dealt with, Mr. Chairman, you should deal with it in accordance with the established procedure. Of course, you also need to consider the views of the committee in dealing with the motion. This is my advice, Chairman. Next, Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, I think your good self has heard a lot of views. They are differing views. We all want to give this issue a careful thought before proceeding with the discussion and putting forward amendments. So I think today is just the beginning. Just now, Mr. Albert Ho talked about Rule 71(4) of the ROP, which says that the power of the Finance Committee, or the terms of reference of the committee, is based on the power given by the Council in accordance with the rules. So some members have said that they wish to go back and discuss with other members, with the party, and we have a big committee, and it is really not efficient. So, Chairman, please think about how it should be proceeded with. Would you like to have another 2-hour session? Because it's difficult to resolve this issue today, and we also want more papers, and we don't see the urgency. Just now, Mr. Chairman, you said that you already gave a ruling, and legal advisor has also spoken. Well, I agree that Mr. Ip Kwok-him has tabled the motion in accordance with the existing procedures. But if he's allowed to put forward the motion next Friday, What about the time given to members who'd like to put forward motions to amend 37A? Would there be sufficient time, or will it just go on and on? If there are amendments or amendments to amendments, these should be dealt with altogether. So there should be a basis for members who'd like to put forward amendments or amendments to amendments to have a joint discussion. So having heard all the views, I think we should consider how we are going to proceed. We can sit here and discuss for another 2 hours, and yet we also need to think about how it should proceed. So perhaps I think the crop or committee should be set up to discuss this issue, or if the legal advisor could give us more information, we can give it a thought and consider how to go ahead. Mr. Ronnie Tong. Mr. Chairman, I think the problem with Para 11 is that, Mr. Legal advisor had said what the legal advisor had said was right. Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal does not have to follow the 5-day requirement. But in terms of the procedure, it doesn't make sense. Well, just now I asked a question about whether it should be 12 days or 5 days, and Chairman, you said that ruling had been made. But even if this ruling is right, shouldn't you consider whether, first of all, other members who wish to amend 37A should similarly not be subject to the 5-day requirement, or should you postpone Mr. IP Kwok-him's motion to 2 weeks after, so that other members may consider proposing amendments to 37A as well? This is due process. Because if you say that you have approved Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal, so he's not subject to the 5-day requirement, well, we should focus on 37A. But on the first day of our discussion, we already find that there is not sufficient time. Next week, we need to talk about the fruit money issue. We may not even have time to discuss Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal. So why are you insisting that his motion be tabled next Friday? Is it really due process? Well, legal advisor said that the committee has the liberty to make decisions. Well, honestly, I don't agree. Well, is it really that the pro-establishment members can just put up their hands and decide whether we should have one clear day or no clear day at all? The answer is no. Amending the procedures is a serious issue. That should be due process. If matters can be decided by just a show of hands, then the minority members will have no say at all. We will always lose out. If you go to take this matter to the court, a judge would definitely say that this is not the case, because if it is a situation, then there is no need to have any opposition members, because we cannot affect any decision at all. Chairman, you should give this a careful thought. For the sake of due process, you should either request Mr. IP Kwok-him to give notice, or to give the opportunities for other members to propose amendments to 37A. When you took part in the election, you talked about fairness, but now it's very unfair. Some members would also like to propose amendments to 37A, but they are unable to do that. When you were in the election. You said that you would take a fair stance in handling the different views of members. Well, if you want to propose amendment to 37A a few days prior to that, you can. But we haven't yet had any mechanism. There was no mentioning of the 5 clear days. Well, how I make this ruling, on what basis I have made this ruling to allow this motion? Well, you also asked me some questions in private, and I answered you. I just want to tell members that I don't know whether the administration would put forward the proposal on the 26th. Well, don't say you don't know. You're the chairman. Don't lie to us. Well, yes, it's proposed as an item, but I don't know whether there will be any changes. Chairman, I'm not talking about this issue. If on the 26th, the administration does not submit the old age living allowance proposal, then of course we have time. This question is very simple. Some members would also like to propose amendments to 37A, and how are you going to handle these proposals? Are you going to reject them, right? Well, for Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal, it wasn't just 5 clear days. There were 7 to 8 days. And I'm just abiding by the rule of 5 clear days. We all know that he has put forward amendments to 37A, and you can discuss, you can debate on the issue. You can also try to put forward proposals. In fact, you can still submit one today. But how would I know is 5 clear days rather than 1 or 2 or 3 days? If you put forward a proposal, then I may tell you that, sorry, there's not enough time. Well, don't say if, but you don't have 5 clear days. But you can amend his proposal. I've said that 100 times. I don't want to amend his proposal. My understanding is that you can propose to amend 37, but then you have to meet the 5 clear days requirement. So you can do that on the 2nd, or at the meeting on the 2nd. So if next week we can't debate on Mr. IP Kwok-him's motion, we can have a joint debate. Legal advisor, I think the focus is on paragraph 13 of the paper. In terms of notice requirements, the chairman has discretion. So I'm asking if he is objecting to my proposal to amend it. Well, let me explain. Just now I told members some basic principles. So, Chairman, even under the existing FCP, you also have this discretion. Of course, I will advise you to be careful in exercising this discretion. You need to pay attention to a number of things. Well, but you need to be fair when you exercise the discretion. You say that the 5-day requirement doesn't apply to Mr. IP Kwok-him. So if you exercise your discretion, then you should also exercise your discretion in allowing other members to propose amendments. In fact, what we're discussing today is not about Mr. IP Kwok-him's proposal. We're talking about what happens in the future. You're actually digressing. You're not talking about an amendment to 37A or an amendment to Mr. IP Kwok-him's motion. I'm asking about the procedure. What is the procedure to follow in proposing amendments? We're talking about the 5+2 arrangement. If you want to propose an amendment to 37A, you can submit this proposal Well, so you're going to reject my proposal. Well, not necessarily. You can put forward a motion. You can move a motion. Well, but if you say that I'm not going to approve your proposal because you need to follow the 5 clear days requirement, but how can you assume that I will do this? This is the impression you gave me. As well, it doesn't matter. You have your opinion. I won't argue with you. Next, Mr. Allen Lau. Not here. Yip Kwok-him should be the next. Who should be the next one in the queue? I'm sorry, I can't read this. I see that he's before you. I'm sorry, Mr. Yip Kwok-him. Thank you, Chairman. I've waited for a long time. Due process. Mr. Ronnie Tong has talked about due process time and again. But due process should apply to all. On the 10th, I submit this proposal. I followed the procedures of this committee, and that is the Finance Committee Procedures, FCP. From the 10th to 19th today, I have altogether 8 days. According to para 21, the requirement is one of 6 days. So why are you challenging me? You should you should read the procedures instead of accusing me of contravening the procedures. I hope that may I ask Mr. Yip Kwok-him to withdraw his comment that I'm speaking nonsense. I am all along talking about how any amendments to 37A should be handled. Well, you say that I am speaking nonsense. Well, you can express whatever view you have. I have been silent as you spoke. But you interjected. Why can't I do the same? Are you smarter than me? So you allow yourself to scold others, but you don't allow others to scold you. Mr. Albert Chan, if you want to speak, please press the button. Mr. Yip Kwok-him. Thank you, Chairman. I see that the Chairman has approved my proposal for discussion, and I'm just following the procedures. As Chairman and Deputy Chairman of the FC, already discussed with the Chairman and Deputy Chairman of the subcommittees. And Assembly Lau also raised this issue. And you may wish to allow time for other members to put forward amendments as well. And what we are discussing is whether to change and how to change it. This is what we should be discussing. Otherwise, I think that we should today instead be debating on my motion and to put this to a vote. So I think that members should also follow the procedures. I think it's a matter of politics. Many members talk about basic law and any contraventions of the laws and rules, and in particular, some suggested that the matter should be referred to a subcommittee before it comes back to the committee. In fact, things are very clear. The matter was raised at the FC meeting during the last term. If you thought that there was a problem with it, you could have raised the issue back then. If you think that it is so important to the FCP, well, I'm actually proposing to amend the FCP for this purpose, and yet some members even asked me to withdraw my proposal. So I'm going to insist, and I'm going to request the chairman to do this. A decision has to be made whether to go ahead with it or not. If not, then we should proceed with a discussion on my proposal, followed by a vote. It's very clear that the purpose is to stop the filibustering. We cannot allow hundreds and thousands of amendments to go on. We will definitely oppose it. You're all for it. So when we come to the discussion stage, we will explain our positions. Today's discussion is about the establishment of a mechanism or a procedure of a 5 clear days requirement for motions and 2 clear days requirement for amendment to the motion. So let's not waste time. Members, we have spent 2 hours. Yes?
Mr. Yip mentioned me when he spoke. I think he misunderstood. I never said that Mr. Yip should be debarred from moving the motion. What I was saying is in relation to paragraph 11 of the Secretariat's paper, that the proposal is unfair if you allow 5 clear days. If this doesn't apply to Mr. IP Kwok-him, how you deal with the amendments to 37A by other members? I'm not saying that he's not followed the rules of procedure. Well, I hope that you would not misunderstood my position. I said that Mr. Ip has had more than 5 clear days. Now you said Mr. Ip didn't have 5 clear days. If heard it wrong, paragraph 11 referred to the 5 clear days not applying to Mr. Ip's motion. Well, the paper has been made available to members. There is no retrospective effect, no retrospectivity. Well, this is what I'm talking about. I never said that you said that Mr. Ip didn't follow the rules of procedure. But I don't think you understood me. All right, members, we take a 10-minute break. We come back at 6:40 for the second segment.